Yesterday, thank God, you know, you can have information, but sometimes the penny drops. And the thing that you sort of knew, you know. In Yiddish, it's called the difference between Heden and der Heden. You hear something and you understand something. So it speaks about in Kabbalah, interestingly enough, Eastern philosophy speak about this as well, that we're made up of three primary organs: the heart, the mind, and the liver. And these three primary organs are effectively the sum total of a human being. The heart represents the natural instinct to desire pleasure, that which feels good. And of course, if you desire that which feels good, you don't desire that which feels bad. The liver, the ego, is a very, very misunderstood, exceptionally important, and because it's sort of the engine that drives the machine, unless you understand it and know what to do with it, it is controlling you. As the Zohar says, there are three rulers. And instead of you ruling it, because obviously you are your mind, you are the choices you make. But as we know, most of us do not succeed in actually controlling ourselves. Certainly an addict doesn't want to be an addict. He's being controlled by the pleasure instinct. So once you understand the ego, you understand how to control the controller, and then you can overcome negative and increase positive. And there are three ways that you do this. The first is you have to understand you and I don't truly exist. The only thing that exists is God. So don't want to go deep into the subject, but all matter is really God. We are souls. All souls are really God. There can't be anything outside of the original source. If I took, I don't know, a statue and I made it out of stone, well, what is it? It's the original stone. It may have a different shape. I can imbue it with consciousness. I may not know that it's the original stone, but it is the original stone. And the same thing is with us. So the idea that something exists and sees itself as itself is an epic miracle. It's literally like a chisel out from a little stone, a little horse. And this horse, I imbue it with life, and it sees itself as an independent entity. It doesn't realize that it comes from somewhere else. It just sees itself as existing. Now, the thing is, for it to want to exist, because there's a difference between something existing and wanting to exist. And that's why AI will never take over the world. Because AI doesn't have a desire to exist. In fact, it doesn't have any desires. You know, you could roll a ball down a hill, and gravity will make it roll. So you can tell a computer to, I don't know, find an equation, because that's all it is, just equations, and it will find an equation. But the computer doesn't want to find equations. The computer has no desire for itself. This is so important to understand, and nobody should mix this up. Effectively, the fundamental concept of life is that it desires to live. Something that, I don't know, like we see a rock and it doesn't want to live, then it's not alive. Anything that doesn't want to live is not alive. And so the fundamental desire for life is a great miracle. And you have to ask yourself the question, why do I want to live? If you gave me a choice right now, say, would you like to live, or God forbid the opposite? I'd say I'd like to live. But why? And I'll be honest, there are times in my life that I was depressed, and a lot of people are depressed. And you say, do you want to live? They'll actually say no, they don't want to live. So why sometimes you want to live and sometimes you not want to live? What's going on? And the answer is that you want to live because you're proud of yourself. Kol chai roitzias kiyumei. Every living thing wants its perpetuation. But when do you want your perpetuation? When you're proud of yourself. And what is depression? When you are ashamed of yourself. And that can come from many different factors. But the bottom line is always the same thing. When you're proud of yourself, you want to perpetuate that which you're proud of. So why do parents love their children? They're proud of their children. Why does somebody love their spouse? And this is very important to understand. It's the nature of identification. In other words, why am I proud of myself? So from the very youngest age, I was born. And when I was born, remember we said we have three things. We have the mind, we have the heart, we have the liver. So my body, let's say, felt hunger. And so I cried. Then my mother very kindly fed me. But obviously, I didn't really have much of a mind at that time. I just had a very simple, rudimentary mind. So what did my mind do? My mind made an association. It said, hey, when I get hungry and I cry, I am able to manipulate this person to give me what I want. And basically for the first year of life, that's how we work. We have a couple of needs, whether it's we're cold, I don't know, person goes to the bathroom, they need to be clean, maybe they need to sleep, a couple of basic needs. And the only way we communicate is we cry. Now, of course, the reason our mothers come to us is they have love for us and compassion. But we don't know that. We think we were the ones who manipulated this big thing to come to us. Which is why at the age of 2, when we're convinced that we're the king of the world and people don't give us what we want, we throw a tantrum. Because we know that we're the king. That's the way it is. It's not that we think we're the king. We know that we're the king. The proof is, I got my entire existence that proves everything I say people do. And so then you go into a state where you realize you're not the king and other people are the king. Okay, you figure, well, when I grow up, this is what Freud says, a child always wants to be big. Why? Because he wants to be the king. He wants to be able to get his way. So in other words, there's 3 things that are going on. You have a mind which is observing reality. You have the emotions that have a desire for a reality, which basically boils down to pleasure and not pain. And then you have an ego which convinces itself that because I got something, it wasn't that I'm a little guy that had compassion, that somebody had compassion on me. No, I'm a genius. I am the guy that knows how to manipulate everything. Now, obviously, that's why a spoiled child is never happy. If you ever noticed, I don't want to kind of label people, but you see it very clearly that people that grow up and they're only children, I mean, I've seen some exceptions, but definitely I've seen many only children. They're basically like on a low-level tantrum their whole life because their expectation of reality is that everybody should be giving them what they want. And this can happen to anybody that's spoiled. They don't have a normal expectation of reality.